very bad frame of mind. But let's not forget that this is a 14-round tournament against 7 of the best players in the world. You don't win a tournament like this with a 2-point margin by getting lucky all the time. So Jan, this is going to go down as one of his best, if not the best, tournament performances. We know that the great players, when they have their great performances, they make it look easy. They make it seem like they didn't even do anything that special, just played normal chess and they won all their games. And that, I think, is the genius of Jan's performance in this tournament. The fact that he really did make it look easy, and he made that cliche sound like the best possible description of Jan's performance in this tournament.
I think it's a good point. When people start talking about how all the opponents blundered and this and that, at the end of the day, Jan Nepomniachtchi lost 0 games. He may lose round 14. He did that last time, but he's already won the tournament, so who cares at that point? So we see the congratulations streaming in. Thank you to everybody in the Twitch community who is giving your congratulations to Jan Nepomniachtchi. I'm sure he'll be excited to know that many of his supporters and fans out there. But Jan lost 0 games, and no other player in this tournament can say that. Everybody else losing multiple games. So for Jan, what an impressive performance.
Not only an impressive performance, but also he has so much experience now that he has actually played the World Championship match. He has a lot of opening preparation still in reserve, I suppose, and he can use it. And all the energy.
Yeah, no, he certainly can. So for Jan Nepomniachtchi, his second challenge, we mentioned just before that 3 players did win their World Chess Championship title on the second go-around. So Jan would like to join them in that illustrious list, as we mentioned, Smyslov, Spassky, and Kasparov. But the other players still have something to fight for. So Jan Nepomniachtchi is one participant in the next World Chess Championship match. It should be Jan against Magnus. We don't know if that's the case. If we take Magnus at his word, he's not playing. If we take everybody else who's talking about it, then Magnus is playing. So who do we trust? The person himself or everybody else speculating and saying Magnus must keep his title? And I think the chess world does hope that Magnus plays.
Absolutely. We hope that Magnus plays for many, many reasons. And I'm jumping the gun here as we have a look at the format. The rules are that the winner of the candidates, Jan Nepomniachtchi, is slated to challenge Magnus for the World Chess Championship. If Magnus sticks by his word and declines, Jan and the second place finisher will compete for the World Chess Championship. But I'm jumping the gun here, okay? But I think that the narrative of the previous World Championship is fundamentally wrong by a lot of people. Jan was doing incredibly well up until that sixth game, right? Up until that 120-move 6-game loss. He had almost a winning position, I think, in one of the early games. If Jan can carry over his new emotional maturity, his opening preparation, his calmness, I think that we might actually see a fascinating second World Championship match. I wouldn't just shovel dirt on Jan and say, yeah, he won the candidates, but he's got no chance against Magnus. We don't know that, and I think that that might sway Magnus to try to reassert his dominance for a second time.
And Almira, we heard Jan in the studio talk about, with every tournament with the candidates, why do you play so well here? My preparation. And if you think about it, he's been preparing very hard since 2020. Other players, they, after the last candidates, they're like, okay, I don't have a World Championship match. They prepare for their individual games, but not to the same magnitude as preparing for a World Championship. So to Danya's point, maybe Jan Nepomniachtchi, with 3 years in a row of intense preparation, in the great form we've seen him in both candidates tournaments, and even in that last World Championship up to the point where he lost Game 6, maybe Jan Nepomniachtchi has a chance, even if he's playing Magnus Carlsen.
He certainly has a chance, and let's remind our audience that the previous candidates lasted for more than a year, so the players were forced to prepare, even though it was such a long break. But what do? You still work on your opening preparation, you watch the games, even if you played a few tournaments online, you have only one goal in mind. So this, how do you call it, this luggage, of opening novelties, I think hasn't been used yet. And he's certainly going to use them in the World Championship match.
And I think Jan Nepomniachtchi silenced all of his critics because so many people have talked about he's a streaky player. He does well at the start of the tournament. but he falls apart in the second half. But if we think about his second half of this event, he survived his toughest challenge with the closest competitor against Fabiano Caruana in the black side, where he was out-prepared. He did have a position that was in Fabiano's favor. He managed to draw that game. And then what has he done? He's just been stable, right? He killed game 1 of the second half, round 8 against Dingley Ren. He's played just nice chess. When Ali Reza Firouzja went for him, he's like, I'm going to come for the king. Oh, you best not miss. Ali Reza Firouzja missed. Jan Nepomniachtchi won that game. So how can anybody say that Jan Nepomniachtchi is just this first half player, streaky player, when in this tournament he showed that from start to finish, he's been number 1.
And people say as we check out his incredible second half of the tournament, a win,
first half.
more win. First half, I apologize. That first round win, it got people on notice. He beat Ding with black. So many people said, yeah, but Ding played terribly. He's still jet lagged. Okay, he drew Caruana and Drabov. Then he beat Firouzja. Yeah, but Firouzja, he's inexperienced. Draw with Nakamura. Then he beat Duda. What do you say now? Yeah, but he's only won his games with white. First of all, no, he hasn't. Round 1, he won with black. Then he beat Rapport. People were criticizing his choice of the Petrov in the World Championship, and he silenced those critics as well. As we switch to the second half, he beat Firouzja on the black side of a Petrov. He showed that he knew that opening backwards and forwards, and he could survive in that opening even when he was out prepared as he was against Fabiano Caruana in round 9. So from whatever angle you want to criticize him, Jan, as you said, has silenced all of his critics with this tour de force performance in the 2022 candidates.
I keep saying he's lost 0 games. This is an incredible field of players, and we see, look at this, Jan Nepomniachtchi getting interviewed by Dina Belankaya, fans swarming Jan because they want to hear from the next World Champion challenger, and I'm sure Jan is going to smile. You see photos being taken, the Chess.com Spanish commentary right off to the side, but everyone wants to hear from the new and, once again, World Chess Champion Challenger. So we're going to stay here on this just to take, and look at that, a round of applause. You'd love to see that. These fans are coming each and every day. Some of them do have jobs, so they can't make it in every single round. But there are fans that are in the playing hall giving their support. And look at Jan, you can tell it means a lot to him.
Oh, he's so touched, and I wanted to say that probably the toughest opponent that he had in this field was himself.
Yeah.
He survived this challenge as well.
And his interviews, right? And as he's doing one right now, he was consistent. Like, you could tell he was forcing himself to remove all of his emotions. Chess is an objective game, right? You need to calculate, you need to look at the position in front of you, and that's what Jan would try and do, even in his interviews. So the game wasn't just taking place over a board with 64 squares for Jan Nepomniachtchi. Everywhere he went, every single moment of every single day, he was trying to be stoic, he was trying to keep the emotions in check, and he said on his rest day, what is he gonna do? I'm just gonna be in bed, I'm gonna get rest, I'm gonna focus on the chess. And we've seen when Jan Nepomniachtchi is focused, when he is on his A game, he's borderline unstoppable by anyone not named Magnus Carlsen.
And I think people often fail to consider the universality of his style, which is really what makes him terrifying. He had performances of every kind in this tournament. You want tactical performances. His first round against Ding. You want positional defensive performances where he punished bad play. Boom, his win against Firouzja. How about a defense? Nakamura, Caruana, right? Any one individual game, you might say, well, that was a fluke. But taken together, Jan demonstrated mastery in every single part of the game, from preparation in the opening to attacking in the middle game to capitalizing on advantages to defending bad positions in time pressure. We got a little bit of everything, and that is what Jan ultimately has to carry forward if he is to play this second World Champion match against Magnus. His total and complete universality and, as you said, emotional strength.
And Almira, there's a lot of talk about when do chess players peak, right? We see players jump out to 2800 as a teenager, like Ali Reza Firouzja. We see other players have a slower start and then reach that 2750, 2800 threshold at some point. Jan Nepomniachtchi, he's kind of been around for a while, but he was in that 2720 environment for a while. He wasn't a serious threat to the World Championship, but now we've seen a consecutive candidate. So is there an argument to be made that Jan Nepomniachtchi, with these two great candidates tournaments, that we haven't even seen his absolute peak yet?
Well, he certainly reached his peak rating, I think, during this tournament, but I also think that Jan has such a curiosity in him that he can not only be satisfied by the game of chess, even though he is such a strong player. So I think this might have withdrawn his attention at some point in his career to another field. But here we can see that he's completely focused and he really wants to win the world championship.
And it's paying off. 2 consecutive candidates. And just so you know, everybody, we are going to try to get Jan Nepomniachtchi in the studio. So hopefully he comes here. We know he's a busy guy. We know he's being swarmed. He's probably signing all the autographs because the chess players, they do really appreciate the fans that are here. But they also appreciate the chess. So we're going to go back into the games that are still in progress. We see some trades happening in the game between Hikaru Nakamura and Jan Krzysztof Duda. So let's head right on over there where Jan Krzysztof Duda, he won a pawn in this game. And now Hikaru, look at him. I mean, he is, speaking of focused, he is ready to play this game out, and black with 7 pawns, white with 6. But white's pieces, they're on very nice squares all throughout the board. Pressure everywhere. There's bishop on b2 as well. Maybe there's a future for f4. So I like black's material, Danya, but I like the prospects that white has.
Well, playing Hikaru is like a game of whack-a-mole, right? He attacks the king side. You bang that down. All of a sudden, he switches back to the queen side. He plays c4. You stop that. Now he switched to the center, and he has a very clear plan in attacking the d6 pawn. So doubling on the d file is one option. There is always the temptation, as we've discussed several times, of also playing f4. I'm not totally sure about that. That is a very weakening move. So Hikaru, with a big decision to make, where is he going to seek the continuation of his counterplay? In terms of attacking b6, you could also reposition the bishop from b2 to a3. So there's a question of move order. There's a question of which region of the board he wants to focus on right now. But I think he's doing a great job, all things considered, of producing serious and tangible compensation. He's got Duda pretty cramped here.
Yeah, Mira, looks like for Duda, he might need to bring his bishop, move the queen, and bring the bishop to c7. But that doesn't look all that appealing. Black's pawn structure in the center, it can be targeted in a number of ways. So I guess what I'm kind of asking is, despite the extra material, would you prefer to have the white piece, or do you think that Duda's happy on the black side?
You want me to admit that I was wrong.
No, that's not it at all. I'm not certain myself because you offer me a pawn and I don't see any concrete problems yet. I take the material. But then I don't see a plan for black, and that's making me start to like Hikaru's position.
Actually, I like this plan, and what I wanted to explain is that, let's say you play queen b6, I will play rook d1, and you will play bishop c7. Now that your bishop is not protecting the knight on f6, and it's far away from the king side, maybe I have a chance to play f4. Like, let's say I will bring my king to a place safe square, maybe h1. Then I can play f4.
It's a really good point, because the e-pawn can no longer move, otherwise your king side is shattered. And so black feels overloaded in every direction, right? The d6 pawn needs tending to, but as you're pointing out, f4, which we've held back from playing, now is definitely possible and scary for the black king. So I guess despite the evaluation bar slightly favoring black, it seems easier for Hikaru to play.
And I also can transfer my rook. Hikaru used, another maneuver. He played g3 against king.
Yeah.
So this comes to my mind.
Which is why I think the likeliest move is queen f7 rather than queen b6. I don't know if Duda will, he wants to keep the queen relevant. But the problem with this move is that d6 is now, not as well defended. And after rook f1, bishop c7, bishop a3 is a very important tactical detail. White say, no problem, rook d8. But because white's doubled on the d file, that paves the way for knight takes c5, and black's entire position collapses. So, as you're showing here. So if we rewind to the position before rook d8, which is erroneous, black probably needs to play d5 here. But at the very least, you can play knight takes c5, or you could try something a little bit more astute, like bishop b2, and you're like forcing black's center pawns to move, and there's a lot of holes, and white's pieces are. There we go, bishop f6 cd, and Duda's not going to like something like this. It just feels like he's much less comfortable, even when he was generally better.
How good is that? That h4, h5 maneuver, and then bring the knight back to h4, it is crazy. Look at the engine. The knight h4, what a blunder, what a terrible move. But it wasn't about the move so much as the idea, where Hikaru willingly gave the pawn, where most players would say, no way, I'm not doing that, because he felt that the resulting position would be one that is easier, more comfortable for him to play. Now, that doesn't mean that Jan Krzysztof won't find the active moves, and they already are at move 30. So Jan Krzysztof with 31 minutes for 10 moves, that is quite a reasonable amount of time, but some of these decisions are ones that are committed.